And welcome to our Power Thinking, Rejuvenating Your Amazing Mind training for Wednesday. It is February 25th, 2026, and this is our 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time edition. And I'm your moderator, Stanley Green. Happy to be with you. As always, on a special edition here, if you look at my background, it's a clear background. I'm in my daughter's house in Michigan. And this week she celebrates a big birthday. And so we're really excited about that. And here with the Grands in this part of the country, we have Grand in LA and California, Grand in Midwest, here in Michigan, and Grand on the East Coast as well, New Jersey. So really excited about the ability to be able to do this from anywhere. So thank you all for being with us. Today, I just want to make sure that we are good with internet. Yes, we are. And today is special. I want to replay a special interview. This is close to the end of Black History Month, African American History Month, and it's important that we do recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of folks from our history. And there are folks who are making history, and we appreciate you all out there who are, doing your best to make history. So one of the iconic history makers is Dr. Emma C. Chappell. Now, Dr. Chappell conducted an interview with me on the 26th, this is almost to the day, of February 2020, and 6 years ago. And unfortunately passed away a year later at the age of 80. And I want to honor her with this. So she is the founder of the first female-owned Black bank in Philadelphia, United Bank of Philadelphia. She was the first ever woman vice president of any major bank when she was a vice president of Continental Bank in Pennsylvania, and one of the few women founders of any banking institution in the United States of America. And I was fortunate enough to be at the opening. You see the picture, if you're watching YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, you see the picture of Jesse Jackson and Emma Chappell, and my wife and I were there for that grand opening in 1992 of that bank. Many efforts that were put forth to help her. You'll hear her talk about that. And she was, and you'll hear in the interview, part of the inspiration for her, starting a bank was what she learned and experienced in her role as the national treasurer for the Jesse Jackson 1984 presidential campaign. So you'll hear her talk about that. But what I want you to pay attention to more than anything else is her resiliency. And we talk about the inner strengths of resilience, the skills of resilience. I want you, we're going to spend a little time afterwards. If you have any comments, I want you to point out what you recognize as setbacks that she experienced and had to bounce back from. And for those of you who've been with us for a while, if you'd like, love for you to point out the inner strengths and or skills that she possessed and exhibited as she went through. So we're going to go right ahead and play this interview, and we'll hopefully everything works technically, and we will look forward to getting any of your thoughts afterwards. Here comes the interview with Dr. Emma Chappell from February 26, 2020. Thank you for being on the call.
Well, good morning. Well, good morning to everyone.
So, Dr. Chappell, tell us about this dream that you had of starting a bank. When did that come up for you? But also, last night when I talked to you, there was something I never knew. We've known each other for 30 years. It was when I actually watched a bank on the news go under. They said that they were closing a African-American-owned bank in New York. And I knew that you were starting a bank, and at the time I was doing a radio show, and I decided I was going to jump in. And as opposed to sitting on the sidelines, like many of us do, I decided I was going to jump in and try to do what I could to help. So it was an amazing vision.
tell us when you first had that vision. But what I learned last night was that uh, your own husband didn't believe that you can do this. So tell us about that. The dream first.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, let me tell you, as you said, we often encounter adversities when we're doing anything, especially when we're doing anything unique. And my dream started, I think, early in my life. I had the pleasure of working or being pastored by Reverend Leon Sullivan, and he would often talk about economic development and doing the things that you think, doing the things you like to do. And so it stayed on my mind. And as I saw, he introduced me to the field of banking. In fact, he got me my job as a clerk photographer. And that was one of the lowest jobs in banking when I started. And I got into that position, and I saw the opportunity to move forward to become a teller. And I was excited about that opportunity. And when someone got sick and couldn't come in at that time, we didn't have as many branches or many as many employees. So the young lady got sick, and I offered to take her position because I had been watching what she did all along. Even though I was a clerk photographer, as a clerk photographer, I was just copying checks and deposit slips to send them up to what we call TransUnion at the time. And so anyway, I went on to become the teller, and as I became a teller, I met so many people, and I really started enjoying banking. Just got to the point I loved it because I was able to talk to a lot of people, and oftentimes the customers would invite me to events and things of that sort and ask me to be a part of different things. And I was asked to be an officer at the NAACP in Philadelphia by a fellow named Al Deal. And he was excited. He saw my enthusiasm for working with the public, and I would, after I worked at the bank, I started going to NAACP meetings and getting involved in the civil rights movement. And so I really enjoyed not only banking, but I also enjoyed the public and working with the community to help them do things that they couldn't otherwise do, to have access to opportunities. And so my role in the NAACP continued for years, and we used to do a lot of upfront contesting to situations that were adverse for our people. And so on one side, I was in banking and doing something that was very strict and very regulated, and on the other side, I was working in the community and fighting for the rights of African Americans.
Mm-hmm. Well, so tell us about many younger people on the line, and some may be in their as early as in their 20s, who may have watched programs and learned in school about this thing called the civil rights movement. So you experienced that, you were there. What was happening there that needed to be changed?
Well, oftentimes with Reverend Sullivan, he founded what do you call it, apartments for people who could not, especially low-income people who could not get apartments. So at the church, we started something called the 1036 plan, and people would give $10 a month for 36 months in order to build enough capital to buy a building or to construct a building. And so that was my first opportunity to work with Reverend Leon Sullivan, who at the time was a real giant in this city and was doing all kinds of
and in the country.
Yes, in the country. In fact, internationally. Because later on, I got to go to Africa, and when I went there, I saw farms that he created for the people in Africa to grow their own food. So anyway, getting back to the story, we did that, and I saw how you could accumulate capital, and with that capital, create something that was beautiful. And this was before he started OIC, and Opportunity Industrial Relations Centers, OIC.
Right.
And so he had given me a test early in my life as a kid, that, and in that test, in the basement of our church, he saw how much I loved math, and and once he saw that I had almost 100% right, he decided that I was to be a banker.
Huh.
And so,
And this was in what time frame? Was it the 50s, the 40s, 50s,
in
60s?
the late 50s, early 60s. Yes.
Wow.
In the early 60s. Yeah, 59, 61. 59, 61, around that time. And so he decided I was going to, he said, I want you to stay in banking for 5 years. And I got in, as I said earlier, I got in banking, started working as a teller, and I enjoyed it so much and saw how how much help people could get from their banker. And so I stayed in banking and went back to school and continued my education so that I could rise through the ranks. I kept seeing these positions that I wanted to do. But the interesting thing was that when I would ask for a promotion and I thought I deserved one, they would tell me, no, we can't take you off the teller line because our customers love you too much. And so I had to stay as a teller longer than I had planned.
Right.
So anyway, they say, yeah, we can't take you off the teller line because what would happen is the first African American woman, even as a teller on the line, a lot of the African American customers would come to me, so I would have the longest line in the bank on any given day.
Right.
And so I really found that I loved banking and I was going to stay in it. And so I continued to prepare myself for the next position and the next position. And one day I just decided, I said, I'm going to be a bank president. I'm going to work towards being a bank president because they have all the power.
But wait a minute. Did you ever share that? Did you ever share that thought, that dream with anyone?
I did. I remember saying this, and this is as I went through assistant vice president. First it was assistant treasurer, and then assistant vice president, and then vice president. Then I got a lot of recognition. And they even allowed me to take a leave of absence to go with the Model Cities program to help them get the economic development arm of Model Cities up and running. And so the bank was very generous to me. They paid for me to get my master's degree. And so I was able to talk with a lot of the executives because at one level I got into loans, commercial loans, and used to do a lot of the analysis work. And so I worked directly with the bigwigs, so to speak. And I would do the analysis, spread the statements, and make recommendations for people to get loans, especially corporate loans. And so I went from there to making the loans myself. And so I had an opportunity to work with a lot of the high-ranking officers of the bank. And I told them one day, I said, I'm going to be president of the bank. And the chairman of the board said to me, I'm so glad you don't want to be chairman. And the president fell out. They started looking at me as suspect, so they saw then that I really intended to rise to the top of banking.
And so what made you believe that, especially during those times, that you could be a bank person? What was it about your belief that made you think that not only you could be a bank president, but one day actually start your own bank?
And to run, I ran the bank for 10 years. I was the CEO,
right.
executive officer for 10 years. What made me think that I could do it is, I don't know, just the fact that I thought that I could do whatever I put my mind to. I really felt that I could, because most times if I really put my mind to it and worked hard, I could do it. I really felt that I could achieve it. And so it's almost like you make a plan for your life. And it was a mental plan. I didn't write it down like people suggest today that you write down your plan. But I kept in my mind what I wanted to do. And so I worked toward that desire, that dream. And that was my dream. And I went back to school and got my master's in banking, and then decided that the time was right. And one of the things that also let me know that I could do it is that we had to create a bank on digitally, and our study group, had the most successful bank, and I felt if we could do that digitally, we could do that. I could do that in person. And then I was asked to be national treasurer for Jesse Jackson for president campaign, and the bank allowed me to take another leave of absence to do that. And we traveled around the country. This was when he ran in 1984. And we traveled around the country, and we raised something like $12 million. And back then, that was a lot of money. And especially for a campaign. It was a campaign where he was making history, showing that African American could become president of the United States. And so we traveled around to different states, different cities, all over the place for a good time from 83 to 84. And raising that money, he raised it in small amounts of money. And it ended up being $12 million. And so I felt, well, what the hell, if we could do that for an idea, for someone who wanted to prove that you could be an African American president of the United States and not thinking that we could really make it, why can't we do something to improve our own economic destiny? And that's when I decided to get back, stay in my lane, and start working toward the creation of a bank.
So this was roughly 1984, and this part I didn't know, and there's things that I'm finding about you now that 30 years ago when we did an interview on the radio, I didn't know. So was that moment when you decided around 84 you would start a bank, and the bank actually started or opened up, and I was at the grand opening, and thanks for inviting me, in 1992. So from 84 to 92, you held on to that, and you kept pushing for that. And so it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a year. It didn't happen in 2 years. It didn't happen in 5 years. And yet you kept going.
It really happened in 5 years, because what happened is from 84 to 87, I stayed in Washington after the campaign. We didn't win. And we started something called the Rainbow Coalition. And I stayed there with the Rainbow Coalition, helped get that off the ground. And so I came back to banking in 85, from 83 to 85. It was a 2-year leave of absence. And I came back to my job as a commercial lender at Continental Bank. And I enjoyed that job, and things went along well when a group of people approached me and said that we want to start an African-American owned bank in Philadelphia. And that was headed up by Malcolm Pryor, if you remember him.
I remember Malcolm Pryor, yes.
Malcolm, and it was a diverse group of 6 people, lawyers and accountants and Malcolm. And they said, we think we can start an African-American owned bank. We have the money to provide the equity, and all we want you to do is to agree to run the bank. They said, because we have done a survey, and 9 out of 10 people said that in this city said that you would be the ideal person to run the bank. And so naturally, I got excited about that, and we started working together to create the plan to start the bank. And right as we were doing that, and that was in 1987, just as we were doing that, October of 87, the stock market crashed.
Adversity.
That's right. And that's adversity. And the money dried up. I had no money to start the bank. But I had been talking in the community about us, and on your radio show and others, about the idea of taking control of our own financial destiny and making sure that we had someone who had the seat at their table of power in the city of Philadelphia. And so I was so disappointed that the stock market crashed, and the people who said they were going to put the money up, now we're not going to put the money up. And I was halfway through creating the plan to get the bank going, and I had it all spread out on my dining room table. I'll never forget. And trying to get it going, and they said, we just are not going to invest it this time. And it made sense. I understood it, but it hurt. It really hurt.
Yeah.
And so but I continued to develop the plan and put it on hold. And then in 1989, 2 years later, I started talking again about why are we waiting for someone else to put the money? We as a community should put this money up, and then we would know that we own our own bank. And so I devised a plan to do something similar to what we did in the presidential campaign, and that is to sell stock at $10 a plan. Excuse me, $10 a share in blocks of 50 for $500 each. And so that was something people felt that they could do, and if they could do more, they did more. And we raised initially something like $3 million from the community at $10 a share. And I tell you,
that was the requirement.
That's right, that was the requirement. And so we had the $3 million. And, I used to come and talk on your radio show about, and the people would line up and make their investment. And we had about $3.3 million. And all of a sudden, I take my plan, and I know I had it right, up to Harrisburg to get my charter. And
from the Department of Banking.
Yes, that's right, to the Department of Banking. And the Secretary of Banking told me, you don't have enough, and you have to raise $5 million. So you're $2 million short. And I tell you, I think I cried all the way back from Harrisburg. It's a wonder I could see to drive down the turnpike, because
wow.
I couldn't think of how I was going to come back and tell these people who had invested in this bank that we can't have a bank. We still need $2 million. But with your help and others, I just came out and told the public what happened, and people lined up again. And this time, even some of the members of the corporate community bought stock. My own bank was even $250,000, and other people, I'll never forget the Sisters of Mercy and others came in with big bucks to support the bank. And we got that bank open. We raised $6 million, and we went back to Harrisburg and said, now take that.
You bounced back from that, another adverse situation.
Yes,
wow.
Yes. There was a lot of diversity and a lot of naysayers, people who say it was not going to happen. There's no way this woman could get a bank going. And I heard the naysayers, and I heard a lot of no's, but I believe that there were a lot of yeses also. And I would go back and continue to talk to people about the idea and the importance of having a financial institution that was created by African Americans for African Americans.
Yeah.
And we did it.
With that point, I remember when you were on the radio show, and I don't remember much else beyond this. A man called in, and I thought, boy, it's just going to be positive, and he's going to say, hey, some people call and say, keep going, you can do it. Yeah. And he asked, what makes you think? Remember, this is power thinking now. And he said, what makes you think that you can form a bank during a recession? It was a mild recession during that time. And what makes you think? And I went, oh my gosh. And what was your response?
That's right.
I mean, you remember specifically.
I said, with a lot of prayer, I know we can do this. We can do this. I said, if we can raise that kind of money for a political campaign, we certainly could raise this money to create an institution. And my goal was to create an institution because at the time, we weren't creating institutions, and I felt that I wanted to create something that lasted beyond my lifetime for my community, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
you have to believe, Stan. You have to believe you can do it. And my vision, I could see the bank. I really could. In my mind's eye, I could see the bank. And that's what we created. And you recall, it looked like any other bank. And I used to tell my employees, the color is green in this institution. The color is green.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
It didn't look like, it was the most beautiful bank. I mean, just the layout, the design, it was amazing. I'll never forget that first day, and seeing the smile on your face, having overcome all the setbacks. But tell us this one thing in terms of setbacks or support. You mentioned that your husband at the time wasn't supportive. So what was his view about you being able to start a bank? The person closest to you.
I think, yes. I think he saw me struggling and just had enough of it and wondered why I kept going. And if no matter who it is, if someone in your family doesn't believe that you should keep doing something, and you believe in your heart, you just have to do it. And I had to do it. And I used to say to him, but I'm going to do this. And he said, oh, the African American community is not going to support that. They're not going to support it. They don't support anything. And when he said that to me, I made up my mind that we were going to make it happen and prove that African Americans, when they want to do something, they can do it. I think that made me even want to. I think that made me want to create the bank even more, because he felt so negative about the idea and whether or not I could do it, and that was in my own household. Wow. And so finally, one day I said, this train is pulling out of the station. You better get on this train. Or get on this train or get off.
Fantastic. Well, I think this is a good place to end it. And what this all drills down to, everyone, is that regardless of what you read on Wikipedia, with all of the great accomplishments of Dr. Chappell, and we're only at a fraction of it, we want to be cognizant of your time, that self-efficacy, the belief that you have control over your ability to succeed, despite what other people are telling you, even people who are very close to you. If you have that, then you can bounce back. Chances are bounce back from just about anything. Dr. Chappell, thank you very, very much for joining us. It was an honor to end Black History Month and be right at the beginning of Women's History Month. You've done it all. You've done tremendous things. And again, we thank you.
All right. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Great. Take care. Bye-bye. And take care, everyone. We'll talk to you again next.
All right, folks, hang in there with us. What did you think? Give me your thoughts. I know we've had a number of thoughts that were shared in the comments that we put up on the screen. And, certainly would love to get your thoughts about Dr. Chappell. And it looks like Olu's online. Anyone else? We see Farrell and Dove as well. Anyone else, feel free to hit that *6. I'll announce to you that we will be going into overtime. So I want to thank you all who will have to, leave now and go off to work and do other things that you have planned to do. But I appreciate you being here. Remember, since we spend all of our time thinking, these 50,000 thoughts a day, we must think with power and utilize power thinking. We'll run this again at 9:30 p.m. and think about Emma Chappell and her thoughts. She said she wanted to create something that would be here when she's gone. She left us at the age of 80 in 2021, and United Bank of Philadelphia is still moving forward and thriving. So if you'd like to hit the *6 on the phone lines, we're going to go to Olu first. Anyone else, as we move into overtime, feel free to write comments on LinkedIn, and we'll do our best to get through to them. Let's start first with Olu. Olu, let us know where you're joining us from and your thoughts about the interview. Hopefully our line connection is good. Welcome. And
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can, but let's see. Let's go out and come back in again because it sounded muffled like in a previous call. But when you came back, when you came out, came back in, it was great. So do that. I'm going to go to Farrellyn, and we'll get back to you and Olu and everyone. If you can keep the comments to about 2 minutes, since we're in the overtime, I'd appreciate it. Let's go to Farrellyn Dove next. Farrellyn, let us know where you're joining us from and your thoughts about Dr. Emma Chappell. Welcome.
Oh, hi. This is Farrellyn Dove calling in from Philadelphia. And Stan, I want to thank you for playing that interview, replaying it, because Dr. Emma Chappell was important in my life. Back in the 80s, I was a reporter for the Philadelphia Tribune, and Dr. Emma Chappell reached out to me, and she said she wanted to introduce me to Reverend Jesse Jackson because she wanted me to write about him and the Rainbow Coalition. So I went to my editors at the time at the Tribune, and they agreed And because of Dr. Chappell, I went on assignment to Chicago to the Rainbow Coalition conference, and I interviewed Reverend Jesse Jackson. And this was all because of Dr. Emma Chappell's mentorship and reaching out to me. I wouldn't be where I am today. How many people can actually say they interviewed Reverend Jesse Jackson? So I just wanted to reminisce and thank you, Stan, for bringing up such fond memories of such a powerhouse with Dr. Emma Chappell. And she helped so many people. I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Appreciate that. Apologize. It's moving to me because I remember those times. Certainly growing up with Emma Chappell's pastor and mentor, a powerhouse internationally, who took down apartheid. He was the one who used the muscle that he had with being the first African American on a board of a major Fortune 500 company at GM. He made sure that companies who excluded African Americans would begin to hire them back in your late 50s, early 60s through what he called selective patronage. And Jesse Jackson took a page out of his book. And Emma Chappell certainly learned from him in his fundraise to start the first African American shopping center, which is still in existence near Temple University on Broad Street in Philadelphia, through what she mentioned as the 1036 plan, where people would save $10. And they had churches, his church, first of all, in North Philadelphia, and then hundreds of churches around the Philadelphia metropolitan area back in the late 60s, where they contributed $10 a month for 36 months. And you heard Dr. Chappell talk about that. And I met Reverend Leon Sullivan, and he was able to make that happen. That's still in existence. So she was inspired by a number of people. And Farrellyn, thank you for sharing your thoughts about Dr. Chappell, who introduced you to Jesse Jackson. You interviewed him. You also interviewed Oprah Winfrey. Folks, this is a longtime power thinking member who focuses on gratitude now as a gratitude coach, but has done many, many things in the past and has interviewed some very, very influential people and is now influential in her own right. I want to go next to Olu. Olu, let's give you a shot again. Hopefully that works. Olu, thank you for joining us. Mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about the interview with Dr. Emma Chappell. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Oh no, we it's muffled again.
Wow.
Yeah. Tell you what.
It's all right.
Okay, go, keep going. Let's see what we can get done. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay. So it's a man from Lucky Lagos, Nigeria. It's a wonderful story, really, and I think I've come across it a couple of years ago. And I think the thing that stood out that took off for me is this.
Well, Olu, yeah, we can't make it out. So tell you what, maybe type a couple of short comments in the one LinkedIn and I'll read them. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here from Nigeria. Certainly you heard Dr. Chappell talk about Reverend Leon Sullivan, her mentor, the person that really gave her that boost to move forward with her dream of becoming a bank president and then a bank owner. So I just got a text from, he said, yeah, I hear him very clear. Okay, Claudia says she hears you very clear. Olu, let's try it again. I'm going to unmute you and let's just make it concise, just in case others may have some issues, because I want to give you that opportunity, given that you're joining us from Nigeria and getting that perspective. So I'm going to unmute you. Just thought I was unmuting you here.
Okay.
There you go. All right, go right ahead, Olu.
Awesome. Thanks, Claudia, for waiting for me. I value that. So the thing is that much money stood out for him for history is this. I've been observing that for quite a while now. Their life story can never be said to be acting out a story, so to say. Life is not a straightforward journey that we can plan from the beginning to the end. That is really what stood out to me. It can look wonderful even when we take it from our lives and our hearts out to paper, and then completely something else in real life, because there are often things that you will come across, things that you already feel that are set, and then from nowhere something will come up, like she said. People who are telling us that they were going to contribute funds, and then they might not be able to come up with it, and so on and so forth. So, and I think at the point in time when she was speaking, you stated the word resilience, and that is the key thing about resilience in our life journeys.
Okay.
Just being prepared for
All right.
unforeseeable.
Okay. Yeah. So, it may be on the phone lines, folks can hear you, but on the platforms, you're coming across as very distorted. So I think, hopefully, Olu, they got the gist of what you were saying here and your thoughts, and I'll share some of your thoughts on. I tell you what, you can go to LinkedIn and just type in, briefly your thoughts, and I'll read them out, and then we'll be there. So thank you for that, Olu. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your patience in trying to do this. So, folks, I'll read some of the comments. Eni Osam from Nigeria. Actually, he's from the UK. He's in the UK and is one of our Power Thinking app users, as well as Olu and many, many others who have been joining us. Really appreciate it. He says, we fly on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. And just as Emma Chappell flew on the shoulders of, folks like the Reverend Leon Sullivan, who actually influenced Dr. Martin Luther King and was the key person when he was on the board of GM that influenced GM to disinvest when there was apartheid in South Africa, and that began a chain of companies that decided not to invest in South Africa. And I remember actually contributing to an award ceremony where the clerk, who was the president, and then Nelson Mandela, who was just freed from prison after 27 years, were awarded an award in Philadelphia. And of course, Nelson Mandela became the president from going from prison to the president. But it was Emma Chappell's mentor, who was a key figure, as she mentioned, not only in the country, but internationally. So it is important to have people in your corner, even though you may have others that are very close to you who may not necessarily agree in your ability to succeed. Remember that self-efficacy. Surround yourself with people who do believe in you. So we want to thank Elizabeth Falloon, who joined us and said thanks. We also have Natalie Thomas, who said it's amazing to hear from a long-time global mover and shaker. Thank you for all the amazing insights we are acquiring today. You're very, very welcome. And Mark Lau Beshur, who made some very good comments early on, and just want to acknowledge him, as well as Leslie Flowers, who's been commenting on LinkedIn. So as far as Mark is concerned, Mark commented, I still can't believe how far behind we are in such a supposedly advanced world, yet the world still has so much racial and cultural divides. Instead of just loving every person as a miracle and exceptional design. Well said, Mark. Really appreciate it. We have folks like, there's David Jones's comment. Black history is every day. Amazing share. And thank you, David. Really appreciate that. Leslie, of course, as Leslie focuses on her work, especially on Fridays, which is all about Think and Grow Rich. And a lot of the things that she talked about, she certainly heard there in that interview. It gets back to that definite purpose, gets back to that belief. And remember what Dr. Emma Chappell mentioned, and as we wrap up, I'll share this. She mentioned that she had a picture in her mind. She could see the bank. In her mind, she can see the bank, and it goes back to the visualization, the definite purpose that Leslie talks about. The deep-rooted beliefs. She had a deep-rooted belief that this is what she was going to do, despite folks telling her that it couldn't be done. I see Carla Hill on the line. Carla, we'll go to you next. Thanks for joining us. Mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about the interview with Dr. Emma Chappell. And I think you were definitely here for that interview 6 years ago, correct?
Yes, and just calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And even though I was born and raised and went to undergrad in New York City, Emma Chappell was one of the first role models, I would say. She's my mother's age. So one of the things when I moved down here, right out of college, I volunteered for the Jesse Jackson campaign, and I became their scheduling secretary. Next thing, fun fact, that's how I met my husband Jerry for the 1988 campaign.
Wow.
He was a community organizer, and I tell my sons, I'm like, oh, without Jesse Jackson, there would be no Bobby or Joe.
Wow.
Where would we be? My husband is looking for Jesse to be a presenter at one of his events. And I couldn't get Jesse, but I got Vincent Hughes, who's a state rep then, and now is one of my son's major mentors. And he loves to say, I put your parents together, there would be no Joey without Vincent Hughes, because he ended up being the surrogate speaker. But I just admired Emma, and I was in a room with her a lot, but it's like she was a role model. She wasn't like a mentor, like close. She was like, oh, that's the big shot. But she was just being a Black woman, and just being so powerful in Philadelphia. It was just the vision, right? And what I heard on the interview is that how Leon Sullivan, and I wasn't here during Leon Sullivan's days, or maybe I was, but I wasn't aware. But what I've heard of his legacy, his vision of economic empowerment of Black people, and the crowdfunding, and the Progress Plaza is still there, and just the legacy. And it's both. It's the legacy. It's not the legacy from far, but that he helped her get that first job too, right? So it's work. It's lift while we climb, right? So just very inspiring. And since I was, I saw the seeds from a distance. Thank you for remembering her and being intentional about sharing it with others, and it being content for us to practice and continue that, right? So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. I mean, real life examples of what we talk about all the time. Remember, and I'm going to go to Timothy Butts next. 1987. Remember when, after the campaign, a few folks approached her, about 85 or so, and said, "Hey, look, let's start a bank, and you're the person." And they contributed and invested, or at least had the intention. Then the '87 stock market crash. I mean, I'll never forget that. I think that was it Black Monday, and I'll tell you, there were people who lost a lot of money in their 401ks. People were planning to retire and they just couldn't retire. And of course, folks who were ready to invest in something that was not necessarily a sure thing, they pulled back and said, "Hey, not good timing, setback." And obviously she was disappointed and sad, but she understood. Um, but by 89, she said, okay, well, I'm going to pivot, right? Think about that, folks. If you can't go one way, avoid that tunnel vision thinking trap. The only way we can do this is to get investment from these big investors. And then she said, no, I'm going to go back to the community and do what my mentor did in starting a shopping center. Take small amounts of money. And I tell you, I remember we did a live um, broadcast from it was at 38th and Market Street. It was kind of a major ballroom, and E. Stephen Collins, who was a major on-air personality and journalist, he partnered with me, and we did this live broadcast where we had business leaders, church leaders, and so forth, and Emma Chappell, and we had an audience, and I'll never forget this young person who came up maybe 2 hours into the broadcast, and he had went around the neighborhood and collected money to invest in the bank. It was one of those unforgettable moments. So that was in '89. But then she had a setback because she raised the $3 million that the state said that she needed to raise, and then they told her she came up to Harrisburg to get her charter for the bank. She was excited. It was a lot of hard work, years of raising money, and they said, "Oh, well, you need 5 million." And you heard her talk about the setback again, the negative emotion, the sadness, the anger, um, the embarrassment. And she said on the way back, she could hardly drive because she was crying all the way back. But then what did she do? She reached out. And I remember, reaching out to a number of folks, reached out to me and said, okay, I need to raise 5 million now. And then she actually raised, if you read her Wikipedia, she actually raised 6 million. And that bank opened, and you see in the picture on the screen there, Emma Chappell, Jesse Jackson, who was at the grand opening. I was there, elated that she was able to do that. Let's go to Timothy Butts next. Timothy, thanks for your patience. Mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about Dr. Emma Chappell. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's great to be out here with you. I'm calling in from Houston, Texas. And just hearing this inspiring story today reminds me, one, in looking and watching what you've shared with us, I went back to Wikipedia, went back to some videos on YouTube to watch and rewatch. And it reminded me of the inspiration that's so important for all of us to use and to leverage as people during Black History Month, but also all year. This is all of our history, right? And it's so important for us to leverage it and to be looking in the mirror and know who we are and know where we all came from. I recall when I was blessed to be a new citizen in the community in Minnesota. I was working for Mayo Clinic, and I heard the stories about Emma Chappell. This is back in like 1997.
Wow.
And in communicating with different people, I was really troubled because on my journey in moving after grad school, moving my family to Minnesota, I had been stopped by police, and they had to get out and display, go on the highway. My kids were looking out the window, crying and everything. And I vowed right then, I've got to do something to not have more people. And I got the officers and information, went up there to Minnesota, talked about a couple things. But they said, what are you going to do in the community to make sure this doesn't happen to other people? I said, I was feeling the exact same thing. They said, why don't you go to a local NAACP meeting? So I went. Long story short, I became the president of the local chapter and then got on to the Minnesota board for NAACP. And, we see so much going on in Minnesota now. This is just 1997, but I saw so many examples of that with the police, etc. then. And, long story short, again, in 1999, we decided to have Black History Month, have some powerful leaders march with us, Jesse Jackson being one of them. So in conversation with him while marching, it was beautiful to hear stories touching on some of the elements you shared today that he was willing to share back in 1999, and that continues to inspire me to this day. So it's one thing to read about things, another thing to learn about it, and then once you recognize it, the full 180, we're now part of Black history. important to remember that, because as we live and as things happen to us, one, we got to remember the vibe that happens. Two, the resilience that we experience from the negative event, but how we bounce back, how we keep moving forward, and then how we impact other people. And now we're able to talk about the stories of people overcoming and how it inspires us to do other things. So that's what I wanted to share. And I'm just so proud and happy that you chose this topic. I'm just so proud and happy to participate today. And I'm so proud and happy that I experienced getting kicked in the butt, but also being able to get back up and making a difference in a ton of people's lives. I'm inspired by it. I'm inspired by all of you, and God bless you.
God bless you, Timothy, and been with us for many years. We really appreciate you, as has Carla and Farrellyn and Olu for now a couple of years, right, Olu? And thank you all for your comments, the folks on LinkedIn. As we wrap up, I just wanted to spend a little extra time because this is Black History Month, and I wanted to do something special, and I wanted to bring out that interview because now Emma Chappell is one of the ancestors, but she left a legacy, and that legacy is rooted in resilience, and that's why I focus on resilience now, because no matter what's going on, if you do have that deep-rooted belief that you can make it, no matter how many times you're going to be knocked down, you can get back up with these inner strengths of emotion regulation, impulse control, especially reaching out with the skills, you can make it. So again, I want to thank you all for being with us for this special edition of Power Thinking. And we want to make sure that tell some friends to tune in this evening. And make sure you're part of the Power Thinking Corp app. We have a number of new members join you. You're on the app. You see the names of new folks. Some of them will be coming up as co-hosts in the upcoming weeks. Tell your friends we're going to be making some major changes that are really going to help us to scale this, and look out for that news. But we appreciate each and every one of you. Make it a fantastic day. And remember, since we spend all of our time thinking, these 50,000 thoughts a day, we must think with power and utilize power thinking. Folks, so Claudia, thanks for sending that text. Carla Hill, thank you for joining us. I see a wireless caller, Farrellyn, and Gloria Hairston, good to see you. Dr. Ekman, thank you for hanging. Dr. Ekman's a dentist, and he has patients out there. I know, one of his sons assists him, so he's probably handling things, but I appreciate you hanging in until the end. Janice Tosto, Timothy Butts, and Olu, and others. Thank you all so much. Make it a fantastic day, and hopefully we'll see you this evening.
Goodbye.
All right, folks, on LinkedIn and the other platforms, we appreciate you as well. And thanks for all the comments from Leslie and Olu and Elizabeth and Natalie. Comment who's on in any and Mark, appreciate you all. Layla, who commented as well. I hope I didn't miss anyone on LinkedIn. There were a few of you others that I may have missed, but I appreciate you for joining us and for investing the time. Take care and make it a fantastic day.